When times turned hard, theft was not a matter of crime statistics or abstract risk. It was personal, constant, and often a matter of survival. Families learned very quickly that owning supplies was one thing, but keeping them was another. What follows is not folklore or romantic survival tales. These are documented, practical methods ordinary people used to hide and store goods when scarcity, war, famine, or social breakdown made theft a daily reality. If you value deep history like this, make sure you subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, like this video, and leave a comment with your thoughts or experiences. This channel exists for people who take historical survival seriously. Now, let's get straight into it. Homes were designed to hide wealth, not display it. In difficult periods, homes stopped being places of comfort and became storage systems disguised as living spaces. People embedded hiding places directly into walls, floors, and ceilings. False beams were hollowed out to store grain, dried meat, or tools. Floorboards were cut to lift cleanly and reveal shallow cavities packed with valuables. In many regions of Europe during wartime, fireplaces concealed small chambers behind the brickwork where food or documents could be hidden without altering the structure's appearance. The lesson here is simple and practical. The best hiding places were built into everyday structures that no thief would question. Even today the principle holds. Storage that blends into the structure of a home rather than obvious containers or safes attracts far less attention. Food was hidden where it seemed spoiled, useless, or already consumed. One of the most effective strategies was hiding food in places that appeared undesirable. Root cellars were often divided into visible and concealed sections. The visible area held small amounts of poor-quality produce, while the hidden section behind a false wall or under a removable plank stored the real reserves. In Eastern Europe, during occupation periods, families deliberately left mouldy or partially spoiled food in plain sight to discourage deeper searching. People also reused containers associated with waste. Ash bins, manure piles, and animal feed barrels were common hiding spots for sealed jars of grain or cured meat. Thieves rarely dug through filth or heavy organic waste unless they had specific intelligence. Applied today, this teaches a valuable lesson in misdirection. The appearance of scarcity or low value is often more protective than physical security alone. Goods were dispersed rather than stored in one location. Centralized storage was dangerous. If discovered, everything was lost at once. Historical records from wartime rural communities show that families split supplies across multiple locations. Some food stayed in the house, some in outbuildings, some buried nearby, and some entrusted to relatives or neighbours. Even tools were separated so that no single theft could cripple a household's ability to function. This dispersal was deliberate and calculated. People kept mental maps of where items were hidden and rotated access so no single pattern emerged. Modern survival planning benefits greatly from this idea. Storing everything in one pantry or shed creates a single point of failure. Burial was, precise, shallow, and meant to be temporary. Burying goods was actually pretty common, but it was rarely done carelessly. Folks really understood their soil, drainage and, well, how to avoid detection. Items were buried just shallow enough so they could be retrieved quickly, but deep enough to steer clear of casual discovery. Containers were carefully sealed with pitch, wax or oilcloth to protect against moisture. Burial sites were typically chosen near landmarks that wouldn't change. Things like old trees, stone fences, or even bedrock outcrops. Importantly, burial was rarely meant to be permanent. Goods were moved from time to time, both to avoid creating patterns and to check for any damage. This constant rotation really helped prevent loss and reduce the chance of discovery by anyone who might be watching for repeated visits to the same spot. So, the modern takeaway here is that buried storage really has to be planned, mapped, and, properly maintained. If you forget where a cache is, or if you seal it up poorly, well, that just defeats the purpose entirely. People, over time, learned to look poor even when they weren't. Clothing was worn well past necessity, and houses were made to appear understocked. Folks even minimized cooking smells or spread them out across several days just to avoid drawing any unwanted attention. In occupied cities, families would deliberately eat at irregular times, just so they wouldn't signal any sort of routine. This sort of behavioural concealment, honestly, was often more effective than hiding the goods themselves. More often than not, neighbours posed the greatest risk, not strangers. Those who appeared to have little were searched less, questioned less, and, well, targeted less. In modern terms, this really reinforces the importance of operational security. What others believe about your resources often matters more than where those resources are actually stored. Despite the risks, trusted relationships were, absolutely essential. Some communities formed these silent agreements to store goods for one another, especially across households with different risk profiles. Elderly homes, religious buildings, or workshops were sometimes used to store items that were less likely to be searched aggressively. Trust was never absolute. Goods shared were often divided so that no single betrayal could cause a total loss. Signals and coded language were, quite often, used to communicate about storage without revealing too many details. This demonstrates a hard truth. Cooperation increases resilience, but, blind trust destroys it. Balance was everything. Everyday objects were repurposed as concealment tools. Furniture often doubled as storage. Beds had hollow frames filled with grain sacks. Tables concealed compartments beneath decorative trim. Cooking pots were modified with false bottoms to hide valuables or medicine. Even books were hollowed out to conceal papers or small tools. These items succeeded because they were handled daily. Anything that looks ordinary and is used constantly is, less likely to be searched thoroughly. For modern viewers, this highlights the value of concealment integrated into daily life, rather than specialized gear that signals importance. The most overlooked factor was discipline. Families taught children what not to say, and storage locations were memorized, never written down. Only the essential people knew the full layouts. Even under stress, routines were followed to avoid mistakes. Survival, honestly, was not just about clever hiding. It was about consistency, restraint, and awareness. As you can see, hiding and storing goods in tough times was never random or improvised. It was systematic, intentional, and deeply informed by experience. These methods kept families alive through war, famine, and collapse. And, well, they remain relevant today because human behavior under scarcity has not changed. If this kind of deep, practical history matters to you, subscribe to Warfield Prepper Chronicles, like this video, and share it with someone who takes preparedness seriously. Leave a comment and let us know which of these methods surprised you the most.